Moorhead, good morning. Riley Richards, Braden Eberly, Brady Sproat, Bruce Degg. Okay, we're live on YouTube as well. This is the first time I've done that. Tanya Vanovich, Tanya Wassel. Excellent. I think I got everything ready to go. Nicole, text me if I missed anything, but I'm recording. We're live on YouTube. I've enabled the chat. Usually, when we get into these things, people are trying to type into the chat and it's disabled. All right, we're ready. So, good morning and welcome to a very special edition of What Farmers Want, where real innovation meets real world farming. I'm your host, Dan Aberhart, and today we are flipping the script because let's be honest, farmers don't need another polished sales pitch or flashy demo video. They need tools that save time, make money, and actually work in the dirt. So today we brought together something different. This isn't a product launch. This is not a press release. This is a live Shark Tank style pitch session brought to you by Cornerstone Credit Union, designed to put ag innovation through the one test that really matters. What do farmers actually think? Always ask the check writer. Always ask the check writer, whatever you're doing in business. So, you, my dear friends, will get to hear from Kyle Folk, founder and CEO of GroundTruth Ag, as he pitches a new technology he believes is changing the game in grain grading. But he won't be pitching to a room full of investors. We don't have Mr. Wonderful on the call today, although that would be great. Or tech executives. He'll be pitching to, guess who? Drum roll. I need sound effects. He'll be pitching to farmers, which is one of the most fun parts of this. This is amazing. And there's a bunch of farmers and industry folk on the call today, which we want to get your engagement. So, our panel today includes four of the sharpest, straightest talking producers on the prairies. And I might mention as well, handsome and rich and all that good stuff. We've got Matt Wallington from Hanover Ridge Farms, Brett Cassavan from Casgrain Farms, Riley Kushneruk from K4 Ag, and Scott Meyer from Meyer Family Grains. And these guys, they know what works and they're not afraid to say what doesn't. They'll be asking the tough questions and giving their honest take. But that's not all. You, our live audience, are also part of this process. You'll get a chance to ask questions, share feedback, and vote on whether this technology is the real deal. I have a bunch of little surveys set up for us to play with. Or is this going to be just another gadget gathering dust in the shop? I'm sure not. I'm sure not. But whether you're tuning in from the tractor, I don't know if anybody's in the tractor this morning, got a lot of photos of snow and rain on the radar. Or if you're in the shop or the kitchen table, this is your invitation to be part of this conversation to shape the future of ag. So I did have a little bit of a poll here to get us started with, and this is the very first time I've ever done that before we meet everybody. Uh, Poll number one, the pre-pitch icebreaker. And remember, you can put any kind of response into the chat at any time. You can enter the question in the Q&A. We've got more people coming in this morning. We're going to hit 30 on the call, I think. Oh, somebody just answered. So we get this pre-pitch icebreaker. What's the number one reason new ag tech doesn't get adopted on your farm? Is it too expensive? Is it too complicated? Does it not deliver as promised? Or is there not enough info as proof? And I don't know, the panelists, can you see this?
Yep.
Yeah.
You guys are also eligible to.
Actually, it says we're not eligible to vote as panelists on this one. We'll have to abstain on this one then.
We're gonna let all the, we have about half of the folks on the call that participated. Hopefully I'll be able to share this after. Maybe we'll share this after I talk to Lyndon a little bit, but before we talk to all of our esteemed farm guests here, Lyndon Litsitsa, Director of Rural Tech Act from Cornerstone Credit Union, I got to give you a lot of credit. This was your brainchild, and frankly, I think it's a really fun, cool idea I don't know if it's been done yet in the industry. Is it that you always wanted to be a dragon when you grew up, or how did this come about? Or
Nah,
shark?
a shark. We'll go dragons first. Is more Canadian. No, this is not something I've always thought I would be doing. But we're all here, and what a great opportunity I think this is. Like with being the director of rural tech activation, Cornerstone has invested in really a couple things, which I find is really interesting. Number one, as part of my role in the rural tech activation, um, my job is to seek out people who are innovating, and especially in rural communities. We feel that there is a lot of innovation. Saskatchewan is a hub of innovation, and specifically agriculture innovation. And a lot of the people that are going to be coming up and producing the next great technology and ag technologies live in rural areas. They often come from rural areas because they see the problems on the farm, and they're out there trying to solve them. So one of the things that we're doing at Cornerstone Credit Union is we've invested in trying to get out into the community, find these new innovators, and have them bring forward their ideas. And Cornerstone is here to help them as they go forward with their innovation. I speak from personal experience of going through the entrepreneurial journey. And it's tough. There's a whole host of things against you. So you're always trying to, you're focused on your idea, hyper focused on getting it out into the market, but there's all these other things that sometimes you just need a little help on. It could be, legal contracts. It could be your accounting and getting that set up properly, how you structure your company, all those things that young entrepreneurs or anyone really developing a business is often not thinking about. We just want them to know that Cornerstone is here. If you do have an innovation to come forward, we're here to help. We will get you connected. We will do everything in our power to actually take some of that weight off you so that you can focus on your idea. And again, whether it's business planning, we can connect people with that. All the infrastructure components that make it difficult to start a business and innovate. And that was sort of the first component of what we were trying to do with the rural tech activation, was develop this innovative hub. But secondary to that, and we also thought, these interesting technologies are coming out of the woodwork, but they also got to be used, right? It's just a good idea, until you actually build something and get it out into the field. And as part of my role, I went out and I talked to numerous farmers in the lead up to this role, and I've always been in agriculture my whole life, so I know a lot of the farmers in the industry, and ask them, a single question is like, what is preventing you from adopting technology? And your poll was a really good example of that. It gave four, I guess, options as to why farmers aren't adopting technology, or what is preventing them from adopting. Too expensive, complicated, not enough info, all these things. And what I've recognized in my time in ag tech anyway is there's 1,000 solutions to sometimes non-existent problems. And what we want to do is try to provide farmers with that information that they need in order to make an informed decision. A lot of farmers, number one answer I got is why haven't you adopted the technology, or what's preventing you? Often it's just the ROI associated with the technology. They don't know what that ROI is, right? And how can you invest in something unless you actually know what the return you're going to get? So that was a very common one. There was a lot of skepticism that farmers had around ag technology, just due to past experiences. There's issues around training your hired hands and your workforce to actually get familiar with a technology. So there's all these barriers in place. And
Hey, you got 1 minute to wrap it up here,
yeah,
Lynn. We want to get
absolutely.
into the.
So what can Cornerstone do to help break down those barriers and allow farmers to make more informed choices? This is today working with you, Dan. This is part of that initiative, where we're working with founders and pairing them with farmers to get that feedback that we feel is required to get it out into the market, so that farmers can actually understand the technologies, pipe in and say, okay, here's what's working, here's what isn't, and really help further the industry grow that way, help founders out, and ultimately get that technology adopted on the farm.
Thank you, Lyndon, for making this happen, and your vision's coming alive, and it's going to be
No,
great. It's going
thank
to.
you, Dan. I
Oh,
appreciate
it's
all the work, and
no.
I appreciate all the panelists coming on.
Yeah.
And I'm super happy. And these I picked super good people today, and I'm really happy about this.
Yeah, we're gonna hear from them. So, did you guys and gals see the pre-pitch icebreaker results? Did you get that? Everybody see that? Cool. Okay, so I can stop sharing that. Now we're gonna go around the horn, maybe 1 minute each ish. We're at 11 after here. We want to get into Kyle's pitch, but let's talk to our farmers and just tell us who you are. Tell us a little bit about your farm. I think we're gonna go clockwise to me, so we'll probably start with Riley here. But what we want to hear from you, Riley. Who are you? A little bit about your operation, where you're from, and do you have a quick story to share about any innovation that might have worked or not worked on your farm, Riley?
Yeah, my name's Riley Kushnerik, born and raised in Melville, farmed here my entire life, kind of a farm kid through and through. Yeah, I took over from my dad's farm a few years ago, so I've been on my own for the most part, with my family and a couple of our hired guys. We're a mixed grain farm like most guys, but on a side, or not side, a good part of our farm, we do alfalfa seed production as well. So it's a little bit of a different market there, but my dad got into that, so I just continued on with that.
Nice.
Yeah, so busy on the farm all the time with the family and making like innovations. I'm game for trying anything.
Yeah.
I don't have a specific funny story, but we've tried a lot of random stuff. Like you could name it, probably at least tried it once. So
Yeah.
on our farm, I usually have a deal where I'll give it 3, 5 times trying. If it works, it's going to be part of the farm. If it doesn't, I'll just pass on it. But technology and innovation is huge for me. I kind of got my few favorite things we stick with. But yeah, let's go from there.
We were talking about it earlier. We were talking about Joe Rogan. Have you tried psychedelics? Is that
Not quite
Scott's
yet.
idea? Scott's idea. I don't know if maybe he'll tell us a mushroom story.
Sometimes the stress might need it.
Yeah, exactly. Therapy. Brett, why don't you do the same? Tell us a little bit about you.
You bet. Thanks, Dan. Yeah, I'm a farmer from Northeast Saskatchewan, mixed grain farm. We've been farming. I've been farming for 25 years now. I think I'm the old guy of the group. So, come through
Okay.
lots of technology and stuff like that. But yeah, we're fourth generation. We're big into new crops and the health of the land and health of the farm and growing it going forward. We've been pushing big into faba beans and stuff like that, where we've even been delving into a little bit of processing of them and stuff like that. And we work with oats a lot too in that regard. So crops that work well in our environment, we're trying to valorize them and bring them up. I went to school to be a computer programmer, so I've computer programmed for my first 5, 6 years out of university, and so I bring so much technology and technology ideas onto our farm. My poor brother, I farm with my brother, and I think he's ready to string me up half the time with all the new technology we get and stuff that we're trying and doing different things. I think one that we played with in the early 2000s and stuff was green seeker technology or
Oh,
infrared, and
neat.
we tried
Yeah.
to do crop health
Yeah.
monitoring and predictive yield analytics and stuff like that. And then we'd decide on fertility throughout the year. And the first few years, what we ended up doing was having perfect springs, kind of like last year in this area where the rain was coming in, the crop was amazing. And then we went and put a bunch of foliar fertilizer on, and then it got dry, and we ended up reducing our yield. So we've had a lot of hard tribulations through technology, but I agree. I think technology is you have to try it and you have to learn from it. So
What
that's
happened to the green seeker? That is an oldie and a goldie. I mean, somebody Google that and let me know in the chat. Whatever happened to green seeker? Good morning, Andrew Abraham. I want to give a shout out to Andrew Abraham, big John Deere guy, big John Deere brass on the call here, guys. Whew. Thanks, Brett and Riley. That was incredible. Matt, what about you? I know you tried the good old tile drainage. I don't know if you
Yeah,
want to
that's
tell
where that's where we met, Dan. You were on
Yeah,
farm, seems like 20
true.
years ago now. I don't know how many years ago it was, but it was quite a while.
Yeah. Fair.
Yeah, good morning. Thanks Lyndon and Dan for putting this together. Appreciate it. Enjoy the time on the panel. Yeah, our farm, third generation farm, in Tisdale. Brett and I can see each other's farms from the top of our bins. I'm sure I haven't looked that way recently, but I'm sure. So we're pretty close. And our mission is to put the farm in the best place that it can be 50 years from now. We're trying to make long-term decisions versus short-term decisions, and part of that technology fits into that every day, and it seems like more so in a bigger way all the time right now. Um, we have yeah, we have tried quite a bit of technology. It's funny, Brett mentioned GreenSeeker. We've been part of boards together that GreenSeeker and swap maps were the two things that stuck out in my mind, Brett, from about 2003. And now in 2025, we have GreenSeeker type technology on our sprayers, and swap maps. We should have stuck to it with the we were using BlackBerry handhelds and into Raven 440 monitors doing anhydrous prescriptions back in the early 2000s as part of a group. And I think that Corey Wellness maybe was onto something by the looks of what Swap Maps has done in the last little while.
Yeah, fair. Oh, that's epic throwback back in the day.
But for me, it's how do we so that timeline was long, right? When we started identifying those on the farm in '03, and then all of a sudden in the 15 years later they become mainstream, and that I assume that those timelines have become compressed, and they have to be. So it's identifying what technologies are going to be useful for us now to become more efficient, lower our cost of goods, make us more competitive. Consolidation, we feel, is going to happen faster than ever over the next period of time. And so, how do we position ourselves with the technology to make that happen and be successful in that with our business?
Yeah, thanks, Matt. And I think the question gets ever more urgent and pertinent given, when margins compress. I'd be interested to know, for everybody to think about, is innovation more important when margins are high or margins are low? Because obviously the game has changed, right? So what spurs innovation? Probably challenges in the industry, I would argue, makes you require to get more efficient. Scott, thanks so much for joining us. Last but not least, tell us about yourself and your journey in innovation. I know that you were also got some skills off the farm as well, I believe. You got all kinds of things going on there.
Yeah, thanks, Sam. Scott Maurer here from Maurer Family Grains, sandwiched between the two massive cities of Duff and Neudorf, Saskatchewan. Fifth generation family farmer, depending on how you count. Been here with my wife, running the operation now this will be our third crop. Took over from my dad. We're also Pioneer Hybrid and DLF agents for the area. I have customers all over the map. So repping those brands as well and getting into the input side. On the innovations and technology side, I would say I would agree with what Matt said. As we've expanded in acres and started to consolidate, those things make a lot more sense. So in the not too recent past, we were a smaller size operation, and a lot of the technologies, while they were good ideas, they didn't bring the ROI for the size of our operation, so they would not have paid for themselves. So getting into the SWOT map side, most of what we're doing has to do with precision at the moment. So up in that game in the near to medium term. Off the farm, I have 16 years in the Canadian Air Force as an air battle manager. Did a lot of work with the fighter weapons school, a lot of the cool things that you hear about on the news. So the F-35 program, a lot of things like that, and did some work in defense contracting with Defense Research and Development Canada and AI and on autonomous weapons systems. So looking to see, Kyle, how your AI grain grading machine works and the inside of it.
Do you have a handle like as a pilot, like Tom Cruise in Top Gun at all? Is that a thing?
Yeah, but we had to get rid of them all a couple of years ago due to political correctness.
Wow. Whoa. So many things being stifled in society these days. It's not fair. It's not fair. You can't share it here today.
I'm the artist formerly known as therapist.
The things we're digging up unexpectedly, folks. I don't know. Is it going too far? Is it going too far? Well, we're 20 after. That was a glorious intro. And I'm so looking forward to getting knowing everybody better on the panel here over time. Kyle, you've got a pitch for us. How brave is Kyle? Let's give a little golf clap for Kyle to
Hey.
come on here and like just raw dog it and go with the pitch here. And he's going to do a pitch probably around 5 minutes. We've opened it up for the panelists if they want to kindly cut him off, I guess you could say at any time and jump in. That's all good. Or if any of the audience has questions or Q&A. But Kyle's going to tell us a little bit about his very, very cool technology. And then we're going to go around the horn now with the panelists to get their feedback and questions after that. And then hopefully we'll have some questions from the audience that I can pitch to Kyle as well. And then we'll give it everybody's take and bring it home at the top of the hour. How does that sound? Everybody good?
And I just want to say, when we reached out to Kyle and the folks at Ground Truth, there was no hesitation. I said, "Do you want to do this?" And it was an immediate yep. And I'm just like, oh, I don't know if he knew what he got himself into or not. But
We'll find
thank
out.
you very much, Kyle, for showing up. We do appreciate it on the inaugural podcast here, webinar.
Take some chits, but let's be real. So without further ado, Kyle, folk from GroundTruth Ag, please take it away.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, Lynn and I think the best quality in an entrepreneur is naivety. So that's why
Now you're paying the price.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, yeah, thanks. So yes, as mentioned, Kafo, CEO and founder of GroundTruth Ag. Also grew up on a farm in Saskatchewan, in between Regina and Saskatoon, a small town called Holdfast. We farmed about 4,000 acres. That was up until about 2 years ago when my father retired. And because I love the ag tech world, I wasn't going to take over the farm, and neither were two of my brothers. So land is being rented out. But so anyway, some of what started this was some of the pain points we had on farm. But I'll get into it here. So grain quality is accounted for on the bottom line for each and every bushel that moves off the farm. But the determination of that quality is pretty much entirely out of the control of the farmer. And we have virtually no insight into it. So I just want to talk about some scenarios of what it might look like if we did have control or insight over grain quality on farm. And so I'll start with kind of the filling contract side. So with forward contracts, one thing that we never did was we were always apprehensive to haul in that first field that we harvested, because otherwise you're just hoping that it matches the contract. So we would wait and see what we got from other fields. But what if we knew what we were harvesting or what you guys were harvesting, that it met that contract spec immediately as you were harvesting it, and you could take the upside opportunities if there were some before they eroded? There might be some value there. What if you didn't have to worry about your harvest sample that you sent in to be graded matching when it showed when you should go and deliver your grain? You send that sample in, they grade it, you deliver it, and they tell you it's something different. Could you do a better job maybe of filling contracts and not giving away quality? Possibly. So you could also look at those niche market contracts or special buy contracts. I mean, lots of guys are getting opportunities on those at times already, but I think that there would be more exposure if we had a complete understanding of our quality on farm. And then from a storage and logistics practices. So right now during harvest, you bin everything together. I mean, that is, unless you're looking back and you see in the hopper that something so obvious that it's bad that you wouldn't put it in, you'd rather dump it on the ground. But if you can say that we have no time at harvest, or there's no time to do anything differently from a logistics practice. But if you knew that those 2 truckloads that you just filled in the field that were headed back to the farm to go into that bin that was already half full, if you knew that bin was full of number 1, and putting those 2 trucks into that bin was going to turn that entire bin into a number 3, would we do something different with that? Potentially. So if you had information from lots and lots of samples as you were harvesting, instead of pulling that pail up for 1 per bin, and you could have like complete quality profile information on each bin. So you'd know your high, you'd know your low quality, you know your overall average. So when you're hauling in, you get those surprises. Sometimes you haul in, you're told you got a 1, you got a 1, you got a 1, and all of a sudden you got a 3. Instead of maybe thinking that was an error or an issue, from the person that's grading it, you might know that that's the case because you did have some 3 in that bin overall, and, but your overall average was still 1. Then we get into precision ag side of things. So I use the fusarium example. We spray for fusarium, or we did spray for fusarium, but then when we'd send our sample in, it would be graded and it could be downgraded because of fusarium. And we'd never have any idea why that was or where it came from. So really the question is, how well at a very macro level are we managing disease when it shows up even after we spray for it? I mean, would we do something differently if we could know where in the field that fusarium was coming from, like pinpoint it down to the specific locations, and then know, is it problematic year over year, regardless of crop rotation? You could start understanding reasons for that. And would we do something different for that? Possibly we would. And then there's the traceability aspect. Of course, if you know that quality information down to the location in the fields that it came from, there might be an upside. There might be a buyer that has some interest in that information also. So those are just a few examples of where there's some value that could be had if we could understand grain quality fully. I always give some disclaimers, you guys, whenever I'm pitching to groups, and it's different. Today, this farm group, I've pitched in front of grain buyers, I've pitched in front of all different kinds of groups, and I have 3 disclaimers that I give, and it depends on where you sit in the supply chain as to which one of these hits home. But I say it because this is pretty controversial. Grain quality is a controversial thing depending on what seat you're in, and so I don't believe farmers are crooks is the first one I always say. I truly believe that grain buyers aren't doing anything nefarious. And I'm not saying that we don't need the CGC. Those are my three disclaimers. And the reason I think these things and have to disclose them is because the system that we use today for grain quality is extremely complicated. And really, I mean, I truly believe that everybody is just doing the best that they can with what we have, but there's a lot of problems with what we have. So some of these problems, harvest sample, that one we send in, it's about 1 kg. If that came out of a 30 or 50,000 bushel bin, I just want to put that area in perspective. So 1 kg sample that they're grading our grain and telling us what we have is the size of like a dining room or kitchen tabletop kind of size in a field. That would be what makes up 1 kg. That bin, though, is north of 700 football fields worth of land mass. So they're telling us what our quality is based on this tiny little parts per million. Visual grading makes up about 85% of grain quality aspect, and it's done by humans making judgment calls. So a couple of scary stats around that. It takes up to 8 years to fully train a grader. Reason for that is environmental conditions or seasonality or diseases. Some of them run on an 8-year cycle. So if you haven't seen it for 8 years and you've been doing this for long enough, how good are you going to be at remembering what happened 8 years ago? So that's a little scary. And then the expected level of accuracy, like a passing grade on a grading side of things, is a 20% error rate. So you only have to be right 80% of the time. Again, a little concerning when that is part of my bottom line. And then the CGC guideline. It's over 500 pages long because it's extremely complicated, but it needs to be to capture everything. But it makes it pretty unattainable for any farm to have the capability themselves based on today's practices. But it's also terrifying that we are expected to transact on those shortcomings. So this is why I set out to solve this problem. So we built a system that can grade grain on farm and throughout the entire supply chain on benchtop unit that we have, on combine. We've been testing for the last 3 harvests. And in the future, we'll also have an inline or on auger system. So we do it in bulk grain so that it gets done the same way no matter where it is in the supply chain for consistency. And we also do it in a comprehensive way so that we can tell you grade. We're not just telling you a few characteristics. We think it's important to be able to provide you with pretty much everything there is so you can make some decisions and transact based on that. So for our benchtop unit, it works on the same premises as the conventional units that we're all used to today, where you pour a sample in, it processes itself and spits out those answers. I like to use this analogy of auto manufacturers. So, if I put it this way, if the way we deal with grain quality today at the farm level would be like if auto manufacturers had no way to do their own quality assessment. So as things rolled off the assembly lines, they would only get paid based on the quality determined by the end user. So me as the end user, I could say, that door doesn't really line up perfectly, or I'm not really happy with the wipers you put on this thing. So I'm only willing to pay X dollars below market value. And then keep in mind that market value could change daily based on factors outside of their control. I mean, do we think GM or Ford would ever operate that way? Not in a million years. But grain grading has been done the same way for over 100 years. But just because it's always been done that way doesn't mean it needs to continue being done that way. So thank you guys, and let's get into the questions.
Great pitch. I love it. Great job, man. And it is interesting because it's like I feel like what we're currently doing or what we've always done is like having a train on a track, and it's so hard to get off of, even though to me this seems really obvious. But I want to take a moment here after that incredible pitch. Congratulations on a great pitch. And we're going to get to the Dragons here shortly. But I'm going to launch a gut check here. If you had to decide right now, would you invest in this technology for your farm? Yes, this could work on my operation. Maybe, but I need to know more. Ooh, we've got some folks that aren't convinced yet. Well, we have about a half an hour left. So while this poll is running, who wants to jump in with the first question here? Who's feeling really brave? Who's the most extroverted? Who wants to take on Kyle here? Anybody, or shall I start calling you out?
Hey, Kyle. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Ryan.
I just had a couple questions. Just based off experience when it comes to moisture. We had, I wouldn't call them issues, but we've had discussions with grain buyers before over moisture because we were stuck, I shouldn't say stuck, but we had an old 919 tester back when the elevators were starting to pick up, the $25,000, $30,000 testers. And we'd take in a sample, it'd say be 13%, they'd say it's 15, but I'm always wrong. So we ended up investing in a little bit better tester. Once again, still not the $30,000 one. But that's my question is like, how can you compete / compare when the elevator says it's a number 2, your machine says it's number 1, who's right, who's wrong in that kind of scenario, based off of, like their machine, your machine, or their, like you said, visually inspecting your grain.
Yeah, right. I think that's kind of the crux of the problem with the system today as a whole, is that there is this opportunity for this discrepancy all the time, and then it inevitably breaks trust, right? Like you feel like, you want to have a good relationship with your buyers, but then these things happen where you have this discrepancy, and again, I go back to my disclosure, my disclaimers. I don't think they're doing anything nefarious, but we need that consistency throughout the supply chain. And so our objective was, and we have some tailwinds with this, right? Is that what we want on farm, or what you guys want on farm, is you want that consistency of when I run it through a machine here, I want the same thing when I go to a facility. So Riley, I think part of the concern or issue maybe is that your machine on farm is different than the one they use at the facility. Is that right? Did they claim that? Is that the thing?
Well, they didn't claim anything really in that scenario. Just that's what the difference was. So, fortunately, when you have a contract with them or anyone really, they say it's this. It's unless it's something huge discrepancy where you got to take it to a CTC claim. You kind of just got to go off of what they say. Otherwise, you're stuck with arguing and limbo for who knows how long.
Yeah, this is the problem, right? We're at the mercy, from the farm perspective, we're at the mercy of them, and it feels like doing whatever they want. And so having a system, the reason that we set out to build this system that in a comprehensive way, Riley, to be able to give moisture all the way through, with hard red spring wheat is the first model we've built, and we started there because it's the most difficult one to grade. We can do over 50 different characteristics in hard red spring wheat. The value in that is that the grain buyers adopting it so that they will use it and it will become the standard at their facility, then you can have the exact same thing. And so then that discrepancy should no longer exist because you're using the exact same equipment as they are, and further down the line as well, they would be using it on third-party inspections. And the beauty of this problem is that it's the only problem I've encountered that the pain points that we feel at the farm level are the same pain points they feel at the grain buyer level. And so the issues they have with labor and training and grading and all that stuff, Riley, is pushing them to be able to adopt something like this. So as much as we want the consistency, so do they.
Is it a conflict of interest in essence that the same people that are buying the grain are telling you what the quality is? I mean, that's my basic question. But go ahead, Riley. You had more question.
No, I was just going to chime in a little bit. Like the biggest thing is consistency across the board. Elevator A, B, and C needs to have the same exact standards as all the other elevators as well. So that's my biggest thing. with this product is I think it's a cool idea. It just to have your product on the shelves of every grain buyer or something similar, say, so that when your machine on my farm says it's a number one and I go to the elevator, it's going to also be a number one. That's, I guess, my biggest, I wouldn't call it concern, but just thing that I would have to look at before I could use it and rely on it.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And so, from I can tell you the grain buyers definitely want that. They want that consistency. They want to have something that they can have at facilities and be able to have that, same no matter where it is. They're not getting discrepancy because from facility to facility, they don't want discrepancy either, right? Like they don't want you to drive down the road and go to somebody else and them tell you it's a number one when this one's telling you it's a number two. That doesn't help the industry or doesn't help them at all either. So they want to do it. The other side, I'll say, Riley, is the Canadian Grain Commission is very open to this technology now. In the past, they haven't been as open to it, and now they've actually publicly released a process that we as a company building this can go through to get an approval by the Grain Commission so that this becomes standardized equipment.
Love it.
Well,
Well,
that'd
let's
be
hear
good
from
then,
some of
yeah.
the other dragons. We got 24 minutes left to the top of the hour, so let's keep rolling. Brett, you had a comment there. You want to jump in? Thanks, Riley.
Yeah, I think the big thing for me is this seems like it seems like a really cool technology and something that farmers are going to depend on, but you have it on a combine, on something that's in a field in tough grain in bad conditions and things like that. How has your last 3 years looked and went for, it plugging and not working? And if you start to depend on it and then it doesn't work, it's kind of like the internet when it goes down or your cell phone when it's not working and you feel like you can't even function. And so just wanted to talk a bit about the quality of the equipment, especially being on a combine out in the field and in the elements.
Yeah, for sure. That's absolutely. I mean, I myself have been operating combine when I have to get out and deal with something, and so I understand that. That's part of Brett why we're going into our 4th year of testing on combine before we've commercialized. We don't want to put it out there until we get a good amount of testing under our belt and be able to be confident in how this thing operates. And so, up in the Tisdale area, we test up there. We've been testing southern Saskatchewan and trying to get a range of different crops and different, yields and weather conditions and trying to get as much of that as we can, knowing you guys wholly. Like we still won't experience everything before we push it out at a larger scale, but trying to do the best we can to get some of that. And Brett, with our design, I mean, we designed to try to mitigate some of those things you talked about, plugging up and, having to clean glass and those kinds of things. I can report that over the past 3 years, it's gone extraordinarily well, but, that comes with a little bit of like a pit in my stomach of like, are we missing something? Why is it going so well? That doesn't seem right. And so, but yes, I mean, that's why we're doing as much testing as we're doing.
Love it. Before we get to Matt and Scott's questions, I wanted to read out Dean York's comment here. Being preemptive is key to this thing working. Confirming your samples are accurate, quantifying each bin's or bag's volume, pooling it so the variances are taken into consideration is key, and getting to know the buyer so it's clear on how to bring what bin in when. For them, it's important. Treat them as a customer. They don't want any hassles on the driveway. And he followed up by saying, you can also get your samples verified with SGS. That gets you in a much better position. Lots of these plants have SGS on site at loadout. Okay.
I got a question for you, Kyle.
Yeah.
So visually, it sounds like you guys have got a great product in place, and so twofold. I guess my question would be: one, visually is only a small portion of how our stuff gets graded, right? And I guess so the rest of it is that somewhere downstream that maybe we're doing falling number on wheat and we're doing bushel weight on the commodities as they're going through and can do that, because if we can close that loop, then I think that is a lot more perceived value on farm. It eliminates the need for the samples if all the data can be collected all of the data can be collected in that way. So that's question one. And question two, I don't know. To me, grain buyers, grain graders, they're kind of like politicians in that they're always looking for the newest issue in order to validate their position. And and if we are taking away all of those perceived issues, then it becomes a complete commodity transaction. And some days I really like the relationship that I have with my grain buyers, and that they know that I know what I have and that I can produce what our farm says we're going to produce, and we deliver on that, and et cetera. And there's, I don't know, I just don't want this to become, I don't think, a complete commodity, that there's still value in relationships, and I don't want to see those relationships go away.
Yeah. So first question, Matt, on the visual aspect. Yeah. So I'm going to say in the world, in this space that we're playing in right now, there's probably 15, I'd say fairly predominant players, and maybe, 20, 25 total. So not a lot when you consider the world market, but we are one of two, maybe, that actually incorporate both visual and non-visual characteristics together. And so that was important for me out the gate, Matt, was to make sure that that comprehensive aspect of, like, down the line, we want to be able to do virtually everything. So does that mean falling number? Yes, that means we would love to give you falling number in the future. Can I do it for you today? I cannot. But do we want to do it in the future? 100%. That's why we utilize machine vision and near infrared spectroscopy together, both with AI. We're using AI models underneath both of those things, but that is the reason why, to be able to provide things like protein, oil content, test weight, falling number in the future, all of that. So yes,
Awesome.
Matt, the answer is yes. From a commodity perspective, a relationship, yeah, I get it. I feel like even from a farm perspective, like for us, we had a great relationship with our buyers, like really good relationship, and we felt that it worked to our advantage at times, right? Like that was a leg up for us over the other people in the area that we farmed with, and losing that is not of interest. What I would say to that, Matt, is, so when you look at the data that you could pull, let's just say you have this on your combines and you're rolling through the field and you have that quality data coming in immediately as you're harvesting. We give you the ability to share that information with your buyer of choice. So if you have a great relationship with somebody or multiple that you wanted to share that information, or you're comfortable sharing that information with, you could do that. And then, I foresee that relationships will get stronger if they know in real time wholly what the quality is, and they can be like, okay, now we can work with this ahead of the game here, because not that they don't trust you, Matt. They know you're going to bring in the best that you can bring in, but the reality is, until they take custody of that today, they don't truly know what they have. And so there's that gap still. And so I think this can close that gap. And, I don't think it will be damaging to any relationship.
It's a good point. Like when there's an issue in the industry, quality of whatever the commodity of the day happens to be. I'll use light oats because in 2024 crop year, there was a lot of light oats that left them in the market, still out on the market. And the industry couldn't react quick enough because they think they know what's out there, but they don't. And if something like this becomes information transfer, data transfer to the buyers as harvest is happening versus throughout the whole winter, that could expedite that process of adapting and moving that commodity by months or years, which there's just think of the dollars and interest that's associated with that amount of product.
Yeah, absolutely. The data shareability thing is an important piece, right? I truly believe that that's in your guys' hands, right? Like we make sure we make that data available to be transferred who you want it to, but that's in your control on who that goes to.
Love it. Well, we got 16 minutes left and we want to get Scott in here. And if anybody else has any questions, it's time to put it in the chat now, because we're going to start landing this big old Boeing. But Scott, you must have some thoughts, Scott.
I have lots of thoughts.
Need some more time. We need to do this again.
First of all, thanks, Kyle, for bringing this to us and developing this thing. It seems pretty cool. So I have 3 questions for you. Number 1, I don't buy anything unless I know how it works. So I think you mentioned near infrared, so it sounds like you're doing visual grading with hyperspectral imagery. So I'd like a bit of a breakdown, let's say on the combine version, like where is it mounted in the combine? How does it work? What's it specifically looking at? And then does it integrate with any other systems, or is it another monitor on its own in the current prototypes you're running? So that's question 1. Question 2 is, let's say I have 4 combines and we're operating in the field, and I have 4 of these units on each machine, like one is on each machine. You mentioned in your pitch that the system could say, like, say we're all dumping into a B train, right? And you say the system's going to be like, oh, combine 3 and 4 are going through, an area with high fusarium or high, something, some sort of, malady, and they're dumping into the B train. Do these machines talk to each other? Is it going to be solely on the combine operator to notice this thing and then communicate it, and then somebody like me or somebody else to quarterback, oh, that truck's got to go into bin number whatever, because it's going to be a 3CW when we're binning number 1, right?
Yeah.
So that's question 2. And number 3 is, I asked this with all AI and computer systems, is where is this data stored? So let's say you take this thing to market, and we have all these things out there. Is this going to be beaming all of our crop grading to a cloud server in the People's Republic of China? Or is this all going to be open source for anyone to look at? Because kind of like Matt was alluding to, that can lead to issues if everyone has all the aggregation of our data, and the buyers and, in both domestic and external, have immediate access to what our quality is. How do we protect that data, and how do we, who's going to have access to it, and how's that protected, and have you thought about it? Those are my 3 questions.
Awesome. Okay, so first question on Combine, how it works. So we've actually tested in a couple different places on Combine. Where we've landed is the clean grain elevator. It's just the cleanest for, being able to install, pull grain off. We tried on the top with the bubble up auger, but you guys with the, like Kloss has like a towering auger, all the folding up and all that stuff, dealing with all that to close up the tops is a nightmare. So clean grain elevator, pulling the grain off, we run it through a chamber, Scott, we image it, and then we do near infrared spectroscopy scan of it. We do not use hyperspectral. So it's the 2, it's image, like just RGB image, and hyperspectral, or sorry, not hyperspectral, near infrared. And so then we put that grain, we bring it in, and we dump it back into the clean grain elevator. So it's just a loop through system over and over and over. We have sensors to know if it's full or if it's not full, those kinds of things, so that we can determine that, we can see on the images. From an integration perspective, I don't have it integrated today, but in the future, yes, we would integrate that, Scott. Like today, we're just running a tablet, and I realize that, pretty soon there's no room to see out of the window anymore in the combines, but right now that's what we're running with. But in the future, yes, we would be tying into systems and be able to provide the information across there. There's a balance there too, though, of the current format that machinery uses for displaying information isn't that friendly and usable on a displaying perspective. It's a difficult to display certain things, and so, but whatever, we would work with whatever we needed to get that to be implemented. Your 4 combine question. So talking to each other, yes. So right now, Scott, our past 4 years, or the past 3 years and this one coming up, our focus has been just making sure that we can get good data, right? Like bring that into Brett's question before. Are we plugging that thing up? Are we getting good images? Are we getting good scans? Can we actually run our models on this data? Is it matching up with the benchtop data so that we have that continuity throughout the processes? But the next stage is 100%, Scott. The objective is not to make you have to make that call. It is to be able to have some automation built into that, but be able to have it so that you can select what that automation is. And maybe you don't want the automation. Maybe you want to turn the automation off. Maybe you just want to be notified. If it starts pinging a 3 going through the field, being able to have that kind of adaptability that you can set it up how you want it set up, but giving you the automation so that, no, you don't, you got a million things going on. If you don't have time to be watching it, it can prompt you and say, hey, whoa, this is way less quality than what you've been putting in that bin. You should probably want to look at that closer. So yes, that will be coming. And then the third one was data stored, Google Cloud. We use Google. That's our source for storing data. And it's not open source. I wholeheartedly believe in that the data is from the farm perspective, it's yours. You get to do with it what you please. That's not mine. I'm not going to make it open source. I'm not going to, we need it to be able to continue to train models and better our system, but we're not going to go out and, provide it to people without permission or guidance from you guys. So that'll be up to the farm.
Is Google in China?
Scott can probably answer that better than I can.
Tariff is a beautiful word. We need to tariff Google. Bruce Dagg says this reminds me of a grain buyer in Vanguard whose nickname went from Jack Sprout to Jack Frost in 1 year. That was 20 years ago. It sounds like a country song. Wow. Okay, 9 minutes left. What should we do now? I just sent out a poll there. We've got a lot of folks that are ready to try it. We have a lot of folks that are wanting to explore, but maybe need more proof. And we have a couple skeptics, and I'm sure that's how it goes. You find that all the time, Kyle. It feels like there's so much more discussion that could be had, but I do want to bring this plane into land. Again, folks, if there's anything that you want to share for the attendees, please put it in the chat now, or forever hold your peace until you can call Kyle. How do folks get a hold of you, Kyle, if they want to talk to you?
You can reach out on any social that we have. We have LinkedIn, we have Instagram. I don't think we have Facebook, but
Yeah.
Or you can give me a shout at the office. I think the number's listed on our website. If you go to groundtruth.ag, you can find the contact information there to give me a holler. Yeah, happy to. And the other thing I'd like to say too is we're in Regina. We're building this out in Regina. We have an office here in Regina. If anybody's coming through Regina and you want to come by and check out how we're doing it and kind of see the underbelly, I am happy to give tours.
Nice.
I get as much out of that as anybody else. That's kind of a selfish play for me because I get more when you come through than you probably get out of it.
Well, and hopefully this has been productive conversation for you today as well, Kyle. But we're going to bring it in. We're going to land it. And I want to go panelists one by one. Keep in mind, we have 8 minutes left, so be respectful of the other panelists' time. But please give us your final thoughts, maybe 1 minute each-ish. Let's just keep going around clockwise. Riley, did you want to share what your final thoughts are here today?
Thank you for bringing your product out. I do think it's a great idea. I'd be willing to try it on my farm personally. It's just one of those things though, is I do foresee in the future something has to be standardized across the whole market board. But outside of that, it would be something that I would, like to try and at least for my own records, know what I have in the bin.
Great. Thanks, Riley. What about you, Brett?
Yeah, I really appreciate the talk today and the more insight into it. I think all this AI stuff is fantastic, time saver, and something that can really benefit us. I do think though with AI comes a lot of learning, a lot of data, and a lot of knowledge, and I think that's the key to get it trained to do all this different stuff that people currently do. I think it's better in the future, but right now I think that's the hurdle for me.
Thanks, Brad. Appreciate it. What about you, Matt? What are you thinking? What's on your mind?
I think that it's a great bones. You got a great foundation of a product, Kyle, and kudos to you for putting all your time, energy, and I would assume money into this. It's something to step out, and that's awesome. I think that potentially wise, yeah, there's going to be something here. I think without a doubt, you got my mind spinning on how could we apply this to our farm, especially as it goes probably a step or two farther into integrating the things that we had talked about. And then once we can collect that data, then I think the sky's the limit. And so that I think will happen without a doubt. And yeah, I look forward for that to happen and to play a role in that in some shape or form. I think you're onto something.
Thank you, Matt. And finally, Scott, I don't know well enough to repeat your pilot handle. Forgive me, but yeah, we'll just call you Scott.
That's all right. Most people do. Yeah, thanks, Kyle. You got a lot of potential, a lot of ways to go though. To be honest, before I would buy this for my operation, you'd need kind of like Riley was and Matt were both alluding to, regulatory buy-in, basically to get this thing blessed by the CGC. And yeah, like the integration piece and the aggregation of data piece would be the big thing for me, because I have all kinds of different people running my equipment. Not everybody's going to have the capacity to watch multiple screens, but yeah, if you could integrate this and have them talk to each other, definitely you would see it on my farm if it worked.
Kyle, did you want to comment super quick on the regulatory piece?
I would just repeat what I said before, that the CGC actually has the process now in place, and so wheels are in motion.
Sweet. Lyndon, you want to bring it home? You a couple
Well,
minutes here.
and again, the inaugural podcast webinar, What Farmers Want, the panelists, I thought asked absolute great questions. Kyle, you are, I guess, a beacon of hope in the, the world of Saskatchewan ag tech innovation. I know that you've done a lot of innovation in the past, and what you're doing now, sort of speaks to your entrepreneurial mindset and solving problems in agriculture. And again, the intent and purpose of this was just to bring the farmers together as well as founders, because I've seen too many times where founders develop a technology without actually having the opportunity to really get to know and speak to their customers. So again, Kyle, thank you for having the guts to come on and speak to the panelists and get their input and feedback. And again, thanks to the panelists for providing that to Kyle. As we go forward, we're going to do this with more ag tech founders, and again, provide that feedback to them. Hopefully we can get better products out on the market, break down some of the barriers and challenges that farmers face when they're looking at adopting new ag. So again, I appreciate it. And Dan, I appreciate you too.
Hey, Lyndon, I really appreciate you coming up with this idea. And I remember you first bringing it to me, and I thought it was brilliant. And now here we are. And what a great forum to share innovation. And ask the check writer, ask the check writer, ask the check writer. Congratulations, Kyle, for being so bold. I'm sure it'll make your business and your venture better for it. To all the farmers here on the panel and on the call, God bless you. Thanks for doing what you do. And we want you to stay safe this spring, and good fortune and good health out there. It's looking like another challenging year full of opportunity in agriculture in Western Canada, isn't it? So thank you, Riley. Thank you, Brett. Thank you, Matt. And thank you, Scott. This has meant a lot. The final closing feedback, constructive question here is, what would convince you this tech is worth it for your operation? And proven ROI, clear cost saving seems to be the biggest one, with a few people saying trust in the company and support. I don't know, Kyle, you seem like a pretty trustworthy guy. More field results and farmer testimonials needed. So with that, what stage are you at? We got 3 minutes. Kyle, what stage of startup are you at here?
So we've deployed benchtop units to the industry. We have them at some farms. We have them at some grain buyer facilities. I can actually kind of give some quick stats on that. We've been assessing ourselves against the graders and multiple graders, and seeing where we come in on the hard red spring wheat. And we are matching at 85% against graders, which is pretty outstanding. We're pretty happy with that. So well on the way towards, having this kind of become a de facto standard someday.
Love it. We'll see your name in the shining lights, especially after this webinar. So thank you, everybody. Have a safe spring, and all the best. Take care. Thanks so much for attending.
Thank you.
Bye for now.